You sometimes know when you are feeling depressed or anxious, but sometimes you can actually miss the symptoms, and there are a lot more mental health issues that can be a lot more subtle. They creep up on you, kind of like that extra weight you put on during the holidays. One day your pants fit, the next you are popping buttons. After all, most of us don't suddenly wake up one morning feeling absolutely dreadful. It's usually a more gradual process that can sneak up on us if we don't know what we're looking for. It's like that dripping tap you ignore. It seems harmless at first, but eventually it can lead to major damage. If you notice these signs, however, you're on a slippery slope to poor mental health. Don't ignore them. Just like you wouldn't ignore chest pain, don't ignore these warning signs. Your mental health is just as important as your physical health. Let's talk about mornings. We all have those days where hitting the snooze button sounds pretty darn good. But if you find yourself struggling to get out of bed day after day, it's a red flag, folks. It's not just about being lazy. This isn't about being a go-getter, it's about your body telling you something's off, feeling constantly drained, unmotivated, or just plain overwhelmed by the thought of facing the day. That's your mind and body saying, hold on, we need a timeout. You wouldn't ignore a flat tire on your car, would you? Ignoring these signs of declining mental health is like driving on that flat tire. Eventually, you're going to end up stranded on the side of the road. Don't wait until you're in a full-blown crisis. If you're struggling to get going in the mornings, it's time to take a step back and assess what's going on in your life. Now let's talk about food. We all love a good meal, but have your eating habits changed drastically? Are you stress eating your way through a bag of chips or skipping meals altogether? Listen, food is fuel for our bodies and our minds. When we're stressed, anxious, or depressed, our eating habits often reflect that. It's like our emotions hijack our appetite. Sudden weight loss or gain can be a major warning sign. Are you using food as a coping mechanism? Or are you so overwhelmed that you can't even think about eating? Pay attention to your relationship with food. It can tell you a lot about what's going on upstairs. If you're noticing significant changes in your eating habits, it's time to dig deeper and address the underlying emotional issues. We all need our alone time to recharge, but if you're finding yourself constantly withdrawing from friends and family, that's a problem. Social connection is essential to our mental well-being. It's easy to isolate yourself when you're feeling down, but trust me, shutting everyone out only makes things worse. It's like digging yourself into a hole. Humans are social creatures. We thrive on connection, on laughter, on shared experiences. When we isolate ourselves, we deprive ourselves of these essential nutrients for our mental health. So if you're constantly cancelling plans, avoiding phone calls, or just generally withdrawing from your social circle, it's time to reach out for help. Sleepless nights, let's talk about sleep, or the lack thereof, tossing and turning all night, waking up feeling exhausted no matter how many hours you log in bed. Sleep is crucial to our mental health. When our minds are racing with worry, anxiety, or depression, it can be nearly impossible to shut off the noise and get a good night's rest. And the lack of sleep just exacerbates those mental health issues. It's a vicious cycle. You can't pour from an empty cup. If you're not getting enough sleep, you're running on fumes. And it's only a matter of time before your mental health takes a nosedive. Establish a regular sleep schedule, create a relaxing bedtime routine, and consider talking to a doctor if your sleep problems persist. Your mind and body will thank you. Can't focus. Now let's talk about focus. Finding yourself constantly distracted, unable to concentrate on even the simplest tasks, whether it's work, school, or just holding a conversation, difficulty concentrating can be incredibly frustrating and isolating. It's like trying to read a book with the television blaring in the background. You might be able to make out some of the words, but you're not truly absorbing the information. This inability to focus can be a major sign that your mental health is struggling. When our minds are consumed with anxiety, worry, or depression, it can be nearly impossible to quiet those thoughts and focus on the task at hand. If you're finding it increasingly difficult to concentrate, don't just brush it off as a sign of being scatterbrained. It could be your mental health sounding the alarm. Mystery aches and pains. Now, this next one is important. Are you experiencing unexplained physical symptoms, headaches that won't quit, stomach issues that have you constantly reaching for antacids? Our minds and bodies are inextricably linked. When we're struggling emotionally, it often manifests physically. It's like our bodies are trying to send us a message. Unexplained aches, pains, and fatigue can all be signs that your mental health needs attention. It's easy to brush these symptoms off as just stress or a bug going around, but don't ignore the connection between your mind and body. If you're experiencing persistent physical symptoms with no clear medical explanation, it's time to consider whether your mental health might be playing a role. Emotional roller coaster? Let's talk about mood swings. We all have our ups and downs, but if your emotions are all over the map, it could be a sign of a deeper issue. Feeling happy one minute and then overcome with sadness the next. Extreme mood swings can be incredibly disruptive to your life and relationships. It's like being on a roller coaster you can't get off of. These intense emotional shifts can be a sign that your mental health is out of balance. It's important to remember that experiencing a range of emotions is normal, but when those emotions become extreme, unpredictable, or interfere with your daily life, it's time to seek help. Don't suffer in silence. If you're feeling like you're on an emotional roller coaster, reach out to your doctor, a mental health professional, or therapist. Reaching for a drink or drug? Now, this is a tough one, but we need to talk about it. Are you relying more on alcohol or drugs to cope with your emotions? Look, I get it. Life can be tough, and sometimes we just want to numb the pain. But here's the thing about numbing the pain. It's temporary. Those negative feelings will still be there when the alcohol wears off, and often they'll be even more intense. Using substances as a coping mechanism is like putting a band-aid on a broken bone. It might cover up the problem temporarily, but it won't fix it. In fact, it will likely make it worse. If you find yourself increasingly turning to alcohol or other substances to deal with stress, anxiety, or depression, it's time to seek help. Addiction is a serious issue, and it often goes hand in hand with mental health disorders. Letting yourself go. Let's talk about self-care, or the lack thereof. Have you been neglecting your personal hygiene, skipping showers, wearing the same clothes for days? Look, I know it seems small, but taking care of our physical appearance is often a reflection of how we feel about ourselves. When we're struggling mentally, it can be hard to find the energy or motivation to maintain our usual hygiene routines. It's like our self-care goes out the window along with our motivation. But here's the thing. Neglecting our personal hygiene can actually make us feel worse. It can lead to feelings of shame, guilt, and worthlessness, which only compounds the mental health issues we're already facing. So, if you're finding it difficult to take care of your basic hygiene, it's time to reach out for help. It's a sign that you're struggling, and you don't have to go through this alone. Feeling hopeless? Let's talk about hopelessness. This is a heavy one, but we need to address it. Are you feeling a persistent sense of despair, like things will never get better? Feeling hopeless is like being trapped in a dark room with no way out. It can be all-consuming, leaving you feeling drained, unmotivated, and unable to see the light at the end of the tunnel. This isn't just a case of the blues. It's a serious symptom of a mental health condition, most often depression. Persistent hopelessness is a major red flag that you need to seek professional help. It's not a sign of weakness to admit you're struggling. In fact, it takes incredible strength to reach out for support when you're feeling this low. Don't let hopelessness rob you of your joy and your future. There is help available, and things can get better. Work suffering. Now let's talk about work. Are you finding it increasingly difficult to concentrate at work, meet deadlines, or even drag yourself into the office? Work can be stressful enough without adding mental health issues to the mix. When our minds are preoccupied with anxiety, depression, or other mental health concerns, it can be incredibly challenging to focus on our jobs. It's like trying to run a marathon with a sprained ankle. If you're noticing a significant decline in your work performance, don't just assume you're slacking off or not cut out for this. It could be your mental health impacting your ability to function at your best. It's important to address these issues head-on, whether that means talking to your supervisor, seeking support from HR, or taking a mental health day to recharge and refocus. Let's talk about those pesky negative thoughts. You know the ones. The self-doubt, the worry, the constant replay of past mistakes. Negative thoughts are like weeds in a garden. If left unchecked, they can quickly take over and choke out the positive. These thoughts can be relentless, popping up at the most inopportune times and wreaking havoc on our mental well-being. It's like having a negative voice in your head that constantly criticizes and undermines you. If you're finding yourself bombarded by negative thoughts, it's important to remember that you're not alone. Many people struggle with these intrusive thoughts, and there are effective ways to manage them. Don't let those negative thoughts control your life. Now, this one is close to my heart. Have you lost interest in things you used to enjoy? Hobbies you were once passionate about? Spending time with loved ones? Losing interest in things we once loved is one of the hallmark symptoms of depression. It's like the colors have been drained from your world, leaving everything feeling dull and meaningless. Anhedonia, as it's called, can be incredibly isolating and disheartening. It's important to remember that you're not broken or beyond repair. Depression is a treatable medical condition, and with the right support, you can rediscover the joy and passion that you thought were lost forever. Don't give up on yourself. Reach out for help and start taking steps towards reclaiming your life. Let's talk about panic attacks. Have you ever experienced a sudden surge of overwhelming fear accompanied by physical symptoms like a racing heart, sweating, trembling, or feeling like you can't breathe? Panic attacks can be terrifying experiences. It's like your body's fight or flight response gets triggered when there's no real danger present. Your heart races, you feel dizzy, you might feel like you're going to pass out. If you're experiencing panic attacks, it's crucial to remember that you're not alone and there is help available. Panic disorder is a treatable anxiety disorder, and with the right support, you can learn to manage your symptoms and live a full and meaningful life. Don't suffer in silence. Reach out to a mental health professional and start getting the help you deserve. Look, I'm going to be straight with you. Recognizing the signs of declining mental health is the first step, but it's not enough. You've got to take action. You wouldn't ignore a toothache, would you? You'd go to the dentist and get it checked out. Your mental health is just as important as your physical health. Don't let shame, stigma, or fear keep you from getting the help you need. There are resources available, from therapists to support groups to medication. You don't have to go through this alone. Remember, you've got this. Take that first step and let's get you back on track to living your best life. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.